Very good evening to all students, parents, and everyone who is watching this video. Today we are going to be discussing about geographies, especially 2019 board paper, where we are going to be discussing about how exactly the board is going to be correcting your paper. What are the things which they keep in mind, especially while correcting the paper? And more or less, we also going to be understanding the paper pattern as well as how the questions are being asked upon in the exams, right? So this is a question paper which is there right in front of you. Again, as we all know, it's a 80 mark paper where 30 marks is allocated, especially in two parts. 20 marks is going to be for topography, and 10 marks is going to be map of India. The balance 50 marks is divided in question answers, basically depending upon the chapter what you have chosen, right? So let's quickly go ahead to understand about the topography. So this was a question which was being asked upon, and here are the questions as you can see upon out here. Of course, as per this year's syllabus, we do not have a six-figure grid, but of course, every year until last year was being asked upon, and it was indeed a very important question which was short asked in the board exams, right? More or less, I'll also run you through the question which have been asked upon. Give the four-figure grid reference for a settlement where the people of the region meet socially for trade at least once in a year. Second, B, first one, what is the pattern of drainage seen in grid square 2118? Third, what is the pattern of settlement seen in grid square 1923? C, what do each of the two numbers, 281 printed in black color and 20 printed in red color in the grid square 1818 indicate? The D, name any two man-made features in grid square 2419 or 2419. D, the second, name any two natural features in grid square 2118 or 2118. E, what is the significance of fire line in grid square 2417? E, the second, water body found in grid square 2221. F, calculate the area of the region between 16 and 19 eastings and 18 and 22 northings. Give your answer in kilometers square. Now, if you notice, they have highlighted this. That means they are expecting you to write down in the unit which is mentioned. G, give a reason for each of the following. The water in some of the wells in the northwest quarter of the map is not fit for drinking. G, the second, the region near Anadra and Gulabganj has many causeways. H, what is the main means of irrigation used by people living in the area shown on the map? H, second, what is the main occupation of the people of the region shown on the map? I, which according to you is the most important settlement? Give a reason to support your answer. J, name any two means of transport used by the people living in the area shown on the map itself. Now, children, if you notice, the questions have been divided in sub-questions, and usually they've been asked like individual question by allocated 2 marks together, right? So looking at that, let's understand the entire analysis in detail. Now, children, if you can notice out there, there are certain selective suggestions which have been mentioned for the teachers. Now, ideally, when we say it is for the teachers, it's actually meant for the children to be implemented out there, okay? So, first and foremost, ensure that the students are understanding the concept of six-figure and four-figure grid. And I'm very much clear that you all must be knowing this. So, it's going to be easy for you to understand. Second, tell the students that the eastings are to be written before the northings. That means we have to go by the format of double E, double N. First the eastings, then the northings are to be written. Give students regular practice and make sure that they understand the writing methods of eastings and northings. This is to understand the flow, that first it will be eastings and then it will be northings. Clarify the drainage pattern. And when I say the word drainage pattern, if you remember Cholais, then I'm pretty much sure you must be knowing the different drainage patterns which have been there, radial, for example. So these are clear. You should be clear with them. You need to understand the difference between them. Then only you will be able to identify it, which means your signs and symbols have to be very much clear. Emphasize on correct spellings of all the important terms. For example, let's say causeway. I'm taking an example. We can't just write down C-A-U-S-W-A-Y. You have to mention as C-A-U-S-E-W-A-Y. It has to be appropriate and correct. Next, explain the settlement patterns. You should be knowing them. Linear patterns are there, scattered are there, so you should be understanding them. Also, we need to understand that when it comes to the concepts which have been asked in the topic has to be clear, which means the symbols, your meanings, your definition should be very much clear while understanding and answering the questions, right? Plus, we also need to make the students aware that when it comes to the symbols which have been mentioned, at any point of time you're getting lost, you can always refer to the symbol which are there. But do not completely rely upon that. You should be knowing your symbols very well. It is just for a reference that you can refer to. Concepts such as trees, which are naturally being grown by the man, we all have already discussed that. When it comes to the trees, they are natural, but they will not be considered as natural, I would say, natural symbols or probably natural landforms which have been identified. Apart from trees, any other natural features can be identified. So I would always recommend a tree को मत consider कर दीजिए. Anything apart from trees is fine. A contour line is made up on the map, so that will help you to understand that this is supposed to be a physical feature, but that should not be considered as a physical feature because contour lines are just for reference. So, for example, ridge, elongated hills, form lines, they are to be taken as your natural features, right? Moreover, we also have to lay stress on many other things. For example, the calculation of area, any other thing which is to be mentioned, for example volumes. Also you can mention about your degrees when the temperatures are being asked upon, although they won't, but still in case if they give you. So these units are very important and has to be mentioned upon out there, right? So that plays such an important role out here. All right, children. So students, as we know, these are the units which are quite important. But apart from that, there are many more things which you need to pay attention. So now we shift our focus to the answers. What is expected from you, right? So let's quickly jump up to the answers which was expected. So as you can see out here, when it comes to the six-figure grade reference, of course, it was easy. Reference can be easily, like you can easily calculate or you can easily find the six-figure grade reference, provided you are very much thorough with your four-figure grade, which will help you to understand the six-figure grade. So your numbers have to be placed very clearly. So as you all know the rule, if it's a six-figure grid, it has to be triple E, triple N. It's a four-figure grid, it's double E, double N. So first will come eastings, then it will be northings. Do not interchange that. Very important. Also, when it comes to drainage patterns, you need to understand the information like radial drainage pattern, centripetal or radical, whichever, or radial as a matter of fact, you can mention upon that. Then when it comes to your settlements, nucleated, compact, clustered patterns, should be very much clear with that. So for example, over here, for 281, so candidates were, instead of spot heights, they were writing height, approximate height, longitude, which is wrong. You have to mention it as a spot height of 281 meters. See, meters is again the unit which has to be mentioned. Similarly, for 20, which is printed in red, it has to be, so instead of distance to the milestone, a lot of people have written kilometers. They've not specified that. So it should be considered as distance stone. It is mentioning how much distance will be left. It can be any units, can be kilometers, can be in miles, it can be anything until they haven't mentioned that, right? Moreover, of course, when it comes to temples, identification symbols is not that a problem. You can easily do that. But when it comes to the problems, so like when you come to identify natural features, here, as I said, some candidates wrote trees, rivers instead of stream and contour lines or ridge, which was expected. So as I mentioned, do not consider your trees and rivers under natural features. Rather consider other ones like streams and contour lines or even ridge. Right. Rest of the paper was quite simple. It shouldn't be a problem. Right. Again, when any water body has to be identified, please identify the water body. Okay, do not name them. For example, the name of the reservoir or any such thing. No. So you have to mention it such as it's a tank, it's a reservoir, or it's a water storage. That is the feature which is expected from you, not the name of that feature. So be careful with that. Right? All right. So going further ahead, again, if I talk about a large number of students can easily identify the symbols, it was quite clear. Moreover, perennial line wells will easily be identified, so won't be a problem. Main occupation again would be like you can mention, especially agriculture. So, but again, you can also mention about the animal rearing, forestry. But remember, it is main occupation, so that has to be mentioned as agriculture. So please stick to that. Overall, you have to look at the map and then you have to give an understanding to it, right? Modes of transportation, another query usually. So means such as cars, car, automobile, these are modes. But you have to mention actually the roadways and you have to mention about railways like that. You don't have to mention whether the cars are to be utilized or car are to be utilized. No. So don't write down the means, rather write down the modes. So modes will be roadways, railways. Accordingly, you have to specify that. Okay, so be careful with that. So children, that was about, of course, this is the answer key which you can always refer to. This is again going to be the map. Now, when you are talking about the map, of course, there are some important things which you need to pay attention to. Okay. So when I say, for example, what does an examiner look at? So the examiner looks at the Gangetic Plain. Have you marked it properly? So for example, it should be between Nepal and, so it should be going way up towards the Nepal. It should be going all the way below towards Bangladesh. It should be appropriately placed in between them. Also, when you're marking the area of the laterite soil or any other soil in India, you should be careful with where you're shading and how much area are you covering. Preferably utilize a color pencil which is required out here. A few candidates mark the range without realizing that a triangle is being utilized for peak. See, again, they are pointing out. They want that the triangle should be only denoted for a peak and not for a mountainous ranges. So for that, just draw a curved line or a normal line, which we have been doing in the map marking. While marking the park strait correctly, you have to be very careful that it should be coming between India and Sri Lanka, but not at the Gulf of Mannar. So you should be very careful with that. Mark it with a proper arrow and then indicating that. For straits, we usually use an inverted brackets, which gives a clarity out there as a symbol. Then most candidates were able to mark Kaveri very clearly. Candidates were able to mark Mumbai correctly, so shouldn't be a problem. Remember, it should be on the coastline. That means land and water jab join karta hai, on that you make it, so that it is on the coastline, right? Don't draw big circle. Draw normal, small, or medium size, which is visible and clearly seen. Natula Pass, of course, you can easily mark it. Of course, you should be using two slanting lines rather than two equal to, so don't do that. Two slanting lines parallel is fine for a pass. Most of the candidates were able to mark big boy. So similarly, that was not a problem. Of course, this syllabus has been changed. But while marking places, be careful with the area where you are doing. This can only be possibly done provided you do a lot of amount of practice. So practice can only be done if you're taking the maps, practicing each and every question time and again. That will play such an important role for you. Deccan Plateau, of course, has to be in a triangulated form, but should not be going beyond towards the coastline. So be careful with that. Some candidates got confused between the tributaries of River Indus and marked at time Jhelum. So be careful with the rivers while you are marking them. Right? So children, trust me, you can score full 30 marks, 20 marks of topography, 10 marks of India's map marking, and trust me, that plays such an important role for you. So you can have a look at this, what I'm talking about. So these are the ranges. So you can refer to them out here. Natula Pass, you can see two inverted brackets. Okay. Strait, which will be marked upon out every India and Sri Lanka. Similarly, the triangulated ones, as you can see, for Deccan Plateau, Mumbai, as you can see out there, a little bit towards the coastline should be better. Dibba is out here, Natula Pass is out here, Gangetic Plains also is out here. So Jhelum, of course, has to be marked upon, which has been mentioned, right? So this was a run through to your map, right? Now, children, coming to the next, that is going to be important questions of climate. And I'm sure pretty much most of y'all are going to be opting for that. So when I talk about questions like climate, usually we expect a 3-mark question, something like this to come down. So where you have to study the table and answer the question based upon that. Also, you may be getting give reasons, rather you will be getting give reasons, and there are selective give reasons which are very much famous. So Mausoleum wala rehta hai, yeah, for example, Uti wala rehta hai. So one is inside, one is on the exterior. So why is it that there is a difference in temperatures or difference in rainfall? For example, Patna is in the interiors and probably Delhi, Patna is there and Delhi is there. They have been compared in terms of rainfall. So such type of question can also be asked about. So you have to be very, very clear with your answers out here. Right. Plus, there are basic characteristic types of questions which can be asked upon, and difference or references related to a summers or winters, and based upon that, the questions can be asked. So let's understand certain important things. What I want to point it out for you. So first and foremost, candidates were able to identify. Okay, when it comes to answers, of course, selected times very vague answers have been given. For example, the candidates had to mention the winds which are bringing the rainfall, and they rather wrote about the description of the wind. So be careful with that. Some candidates wrote factors affecting the monsoon instead of characteristics of the Indian monsoon. So be careful with the difference by understanding the question. Southwest monsoon winds also is mentioned, like March to September. The duration has to be specified out there. High pressure and low pressure, a lot of confusion was being done. So be careful with that answer which is expected from you. Many candidates are unable to write down why Goa gets more rainfall than Pondicherry. So candidates explain either about Goa or Pondicherry. But the question has to be very clearly understood that when it comes to Goa, when it comes to Pondicherry, what exactly is the reason behind it? So it's simple as that. When it comes to Pondicherry, which is on the eastern side, and Goa, which is on the western side, okay, on the western coastline. So, but obvious, when it comes to Goa, they'll be receiving more rainfall because they receive some southwest monsoon winds for a longer period of time as compared to Puducherry, which is receiving from a retreating monsoon for a lesser period of time. So that is why the reason is that rainfall is more in Goa as compared to Puducherry, right? Again, a number of candidates were able to give correct reasons for the monsoon ram, heaviest rainfall area. We all know that. So what is the reason behind it? Garo Khasi Hills are supposed to be acting as a barrier. So we all know the fact it's a windward conditions out there. So windward is toward the monsoon ram, and the other side become the leeward side. Again, when it comes to Delhi and Mangalore, when being compared upon, so Delhi receives more or less interior conditions, so but oppositions being on the interior side, their temperatures, of course, will be more of continental as compared to coastal area, where the temperatures will be warm, pleasant, and will be cool as such. Again, when it comes to description, you have to identify that based on the sums. So you have to first understand the temperatures. If you find that the temperatures are higher towards, let's say, uh, your April, May, and June onwards, the temperatures are high. The rainfall is also high towards your June, July, August, September. That means the rainfall is coming from southwest monsoon winds. But if you find that the temperatures are like hot, but the rainfall received in October, November, or November, December, and Jan, then the rainfall is coming from northeast monsoon winds. So be careful with the understanding of the winds, right? So this is such an important answer, and trust me, it's a very very simple chapter. It's just that you should understand the order from where the winds are going from one end to another, coming back again. The entire chapter will go with the flow. Let's move to the next one. Again, that's going to be question number 4. That's going to be about soils. So again, a very basic, simple question which I've been asked upon. Please remember the characteristics and understand about them very, very, very. So looking at that, you can see out here we have majority of the candidates easily be able to answer selective questions. Selective, we're finding it difficult. So be careful with the weathering part. Be understanding about in situ terms. You should know the soils characteristics of red laterite, black, as well as alluvial soil. So it will be easy for you to answer. In my opinion, I will always suggest make a tabular form characteristics, like for example, the temperature, the materials found out there, and you can easily jot down the pointers out there. Easy for you to remember. All right. Most of the candidates wrote the name of an important transported soil of India correctly. So that is alluvial soil, of course, because it comes through the mountains brought down by the rivers. Again, when it comes to explanation, please avoid writing lengthy explanations. Remember, the keywords are important, which at times goes missing. So please be careful with that. Again, several candidates, instead of explaining characters of red soil, wrote the meaning of dry farming. So be careful with the understanding of the question. Thus, the question attempted correctly by majority of the candidates, so not a problem again. Deepening of the red river bed, as well as when it comes to your understanding towards any particular association with the soil, has to be going with the flow. Please be understanding how exactly you're comprehending the understanding of this topic has been. Physical characteristics of laterite soil was also been answered, so it was quite simple enough for you to understand. At any point of time you feel that you want to go more in detail, so please go through the yellow boxes which have been given to you out there, right? They will add up the points for you, and that will be such an important role for you, right? All right, let's go to the next one. That's going to be forest area. Again, a simple question, direct points, not that difficult as such. What is littoral forest, characteristics of Nilgiri forest? Please remember the important uses of your when it comes to uses of your forest areas as such, right? That plays such an important role, right? Now, children, before we go ahead, let's understand what exactly is the importance of our forest areas, right? Let's go ahead. Alright, students, as I said, when it comes to the littoral forests, when it comes to Nilgiri forest, tropical evergreen forest, these are the important ones which you need to pay attention to. So over here, the questions have been asked upon accordingly. Very simple, very to the point answers, not that complicated. So it's an easy way of scoring your marks. Again, as I mentioned, if you remember in the textbook, there is a table which has been given to you. So that will play such an important role for you when you are revising it. It is somewhere covering up the entire users requirements, temperature, everything out there, right? From the commercial ones to the requirements, everything will be covered upon out there, right? So let's just have a look at the answers out here. So when it comes to the answers, like features found in Nilgiri Hills, of course it's quite simple enough to be answered upon. You need to pay attention to the which vegetation category does it belong to. Likewise, when it comes to the growth of littoral forests, when it comes to the characteristics of the forest, you need to pay attention to what requirements are there. You can't just manipulate them. So you have to ensure that you are covering them. Again, when it comes to writing the names of the trees, tropical evergreen forest, tropical deciduous, be careful what has been asked and accordingly write it down. Many candidates, of course, will be able to write down the correct reason why the trees are tropical deciduous in nature. Why is it stunted growth? What is the reason to it? So be careful with the correct reasons what are mentioned and what are required for you to be answered for. Again, when it comes to forest conservation of India, at least remember the methods what are being utilized and adopted by them will play such an important role for you to answer them, right? Likewise, when it comes to monsoon deciduous forests, when are they shedding the leaves during March and April period has to be remembered. Okay, that will help you out. Also, as I mentioned, explain in a tabular form the differences between conditions for the growth of these types. You can also use the tabular form to explain and understand as well that what have you understand, how you can put it under Excel, right? Again, when it comes to understanding of the question, it's all pure logic. So just don't mug them up. Remember them. Understand the why are they found, what are they found. If you understand the entire country, India, according to the temperatures, climate, and based upon the soil and the forest areas, you'll never make a mistake. It'll be very easy for you to understand that, right? So let's go to the next one. That's going to be water resources. Again, very simple chapter, to the point, not that difficult as such. So please, it's a request if you're not attempting, please do attempt. That's a short recommendation after soil, climate, vegetation. I would always recommend you to go for water. It's an independent chapter, right? For example, simple question like modern means of irrigation are gaining popularity due to reasons. Mention two factors that are favorable for development of tube well irrigation, Punjab. Most of the South Indian states are now suitable for development of canal irrigation. Urgent need of water conservation in India. Development of irrigation is essential for the growth of agriculture sector. Then explanation of inundation canal, rooftop harvesting, rainwater harvesting, surface water. Very simple and to the point, right? Likewise, if you understand the gist of the topic, see, basically it's all about water. And if you understand India, wherever the rivers are flowing, they also have a very good groundwater storage capacity. So over there, wells and tube wells can easily be utilized. Now, tube wells will be a little different from the wells. They are usually found in the heighted areas. Similarly, wherever water will not be available, you utilize the artificial source of irrigation. So over there, they'll try to use canal irrigation to draw the water right from the reservoir to the other areas. So if you understand the logic behind it and where is it located, trust me, you will never make a mistake out here, right? Apart from that, ponds and other areas will always be found where the rainfall is there, where the groundwater is also there. Together, you can find it in that sections. Where do you find the tank irrigation? So area which are little elevated and has a gap in between where the water can be stored and can be served as a tank. So if you understand these things, it's very easy for you to understand the topic. So looking at that, of course, if you can see the examiner's point of view, a little clarification was required for them to understand between the traditional means and modern means. Modern is where equipments are utilized. Traditional means are where orthodox method like pulling or pulley is utilized to draw the water out, normal well irrigation, dual irrigation, but in the old methods, that is supposed to be utilized out there, right? Again, when it comes to modern means, they're becoming popular as they are cheaper, not necessary. Selective areas, yes, but selective area they might be a little expensive too. So writing about factor why tube well irrigation is found in Punjab, of course, it's very much simple. So our selective areas are already having groundwater. You can draw the water deeper extracts where the water is getting accumulated, and you can withdraw. Again, most of the candidates wrote the correct answer when it comes to transportation of inland, wherever has been asked upon whether they can be utilized for canal irrigation. Yes, they can be. In selective areas, they have been utilized that. Right? Again, when it comes to selective important points, you need to understand the difference between the traditional and modern means of irrigation. Advantages, okay, in the means of irrigation, where are they found, which area, which state, how they have been related to the physiology and hydrological condition of that area. Understand the terrain, where exactly is it found? Is it found in the heighted areas, low heighted area, medium areas? Accordingly, you'll find that which irrigation will be fitting that sections. Water crisis which are faced by India today has to be understood with the help of reasons, and then telling them the remedy, what can be taken up, how water shortage can be overcome, right? Two types of canal, inundation, perennial canal, has to be understood clearly. Clarify the understanding of your groundwater, surface water, what is the difference between them, preferably with an example. Also, the difference between rainwater harvesting and rooftop rainwater. Rooftop is chat ke upar, where the water gets accumulated, then they are draining out, accumulated in a vessel or a tank, and from there the water can be utilized for rainwater harvesting. Other rainwater harvesting is where it can be on the ground level also, the water is accumulated and stored in the ground level or tank or anywhere, and they are being reutilized. So rooftop is specifically above the house, on the roof, and rainwater harvesting can be in general, anything. So understand the difference between, right? All right, going to the next one. Of course, these are the answers. And when it comes to uh, your natural resources, your energy resources, so this is what the topic is all about. Again, a preferable option if you would like to go for mineral resources, energy resources, always an advantage for you. So please, it's again to the point questions, not that difficult, nothing difficult in terms of conceptual making understand or anything like that. It's easy, so you can easily understand. Of course, biogas is not there, but any other topic if you have to merge about. So iron ore is there, magnesium is there. Understand the important places where they're being found. The advantage and disadvantage of using a conventional, non-conventional resources. How the power can be utilized. Understand that. Then the mining areas where they are being found, important mining areas, early mining areas, all of them should be known. Because if not for learning, even for map marking, they can be done. Right? Multi-purpose dams and projects, initially they were there, now it is not that important. But again, liquid gold, petroleum, very much important, understand that. Coal, very much important, understand that. Similarly, when it comes to India's location as an advantage for generation of solar power, yes, because India receives sufficient amount of solar energy. All thanks to Tropic of Cancer and also being a tropical country, we receive quite a standing rays of the sun, helping us to generate more electricity, right? Mineral usage when it comes to nuclear power, like coal, petroleum, diesel, although we light them in nuclear power, but actually they are supposed to be specified a little more descriptively. So be careful with that. What mineral are to be utilized where? Okay. Again, very simple topics, not that difficult for you to understand that, right? But again, another backup topic you can attempt if you want. Agriculture, I'm pretty much sure not everyone must have attempted, but if in case you're attempting, again, remember in agriculture, it's more about your temperature requirements, soil conditions, climatic condition requirements, examples of the seasons, and more or less you'll also understanding the requirement and characteristics. Platooning, for example, or Japanese method, anything has to be very much clear. Okay, so you can see out here the tuning crop is gaining popularity. Sugarcane, for example, cotton is there, for example. Please ensure that you are going through the method, right? So here you can see you have to understand the meaning of food crops, cash crops, plantation crops. Understand with the help of examples. You have to prepare a table or a chart for your reference if you want to put down your climate, soil. You can also refer to the MDAD solution where the tables have been there. More or less, you can also refer for the better understanding because tabular form will help you to understand it in detail. When it comes to Kharif and Rabi, you need to specify the months of harvesting and sowing. Be careful with that. Don't interchange them. Even Zad as a matter of fact. Right? More or less, the chapter on agriculture will be more dealing with climate, water, soil. So you should know them very well. What soil is suitable for what crop. Okay. Again, highlights of the different types of farming should be known, characteristics should be known, advantage should be known to you. So this will help you to write them in a more systematic. The tuning, ginning, rating processes should be clear to you if you are attempting this chapter. Okay. But again, when it comes to this topic, again, it is not involving more of concepts, but yes, a lot of I would say terms are there which has to be going hand in hand with the topic. So be careful with that. Right. All right, let's go to the next one. That's again going to be your industries, agro as well as manufacturing industries. So again, when it comes to these topics, simple, to the point, of course. But names, a lot of names, a lot of state names have been there. So you have to be careful with that too. So for example, where do you find the INHE plants and Vilai plant, Karnataka is supposed to tell us important state. For silk, although this year's syllabus it is not there, but you should be knowing at least the places just for your information. Sugar industry very much important. Cotton industry very much important. Sorry, iron ore industry very much important. So be careful with these topics. Okay, just give reasons are most likely to be asked. So you should be knowing the places where the minerals have been found and what state are they being mentioned, because you have to mention the name of the place and the state where it will be located. Factors: why is it being found? What is the reason behind having that location? Where do they get the raw materials from? Understand that. Write it down. Right? Byproducts of sugar industry very much important. Molasses are there, bagasses are. Please mention about that. Know about them as well. Also, you need to read your question. What is being? At that time we get confused and we may make a mistake. So be careful with that. Again, understanding presentation of the answer very neatly. Pointers if possible. Please follow whatever has been asked as per the question. Don't just write down abruptly if you don't know it. Don't just randomly write down anything, because these questions are to the point. So you can't just go and bluff everywhere. Okay? Be careful with that. These are the answers to it, the mentioning of the topics. Let's talk about the 10th question. Again, transportation, a favorite chapter of everyone. Advantage, disadvantage. By default, you should be knowing for all the four modes of transportation. But apart from that, you should know the name of the national highways, railway routes. If you know the names, it's okay. Okay, then give reasons a little which are being asked upon out there. So be careful with that too. Ports, you should know the names as well. So be informative, no matter even if you're not descriptive, know the information at least. Just read it once. Okay. Likewise, so when you're writing about a transportation as such, so please ensure that you are supposed to be specifying it in detail. Advantages, disadvantages. Also, you're mentioning about how they are going to be beneficial if they have been asked upon. Be careful what they've asked, what not. If they have asked you for disadvantage, stick to disadvantage. Don't go for advantage. Okay. It's a simple chapter, so not much to discuss, but names are something what I want you to pay attention to, and the advantage or disadvantage which plays such an important role for you to understand that, right? So that is going to be very important for you. Here you can see how they are being mentioning about. Coming to the next question, that is going to be waste management. Again, it's a chapter which you can write down even with your own word because you understood that topic. So be careful with understanding. If you have not understood, just randomly you're writing anything, that will not fetch you marks. Be careful with that, right? So here you can see how you have been given the answers. So quality of the air, what of course the first chapter waste management has been removed, but other chapters you can surely utilize for understanding. So when it comes to meaning, segregation, terms, you have to be very careful. Composting, segregation, dumping as a matter of fact, incineration, very important topic which you should be understanding. Eutrophication, biomagnification, chances are less to be asked, but you should know the meaning of that. We've already understood the meaning, so that will play such an important role for you, right? Impact of waste on the accumulation, how the quality of air and water is getting deteriorated, the effect what you get to see on the decomposition of waste in the open areas, methods of waste disposal, the advantages out there. So that will play an understanding role for you how to present your paper and how to write down your answer. Revise the topics when it comes to all the chapters, go through them. Plus, also be careful that when you're writing down, don't just randomly write down long stories. Try to cover up the point, but not go too much into detail. It gets too boring for the paper corrector to correct your paper. So be careful with that. Okay. So, children, just to bring it to your attention, this was a 2019 paper what we discussed. Certain general comments what they have been mentioning. When it comes to topo sheet, 6-figure grid, causeways, very important. Map pointers, areas of lateral soil, which was asked, Gangetic plain. Again, this is based on the paper. So, dig boy, very important. Wind calculation, total rainfall, when, which direction they are moving, how they are moving, will play an important role for you to understand which side is it, western side, eastern side. Then again, riverbeds deepening. What exactly is the importance of that? Industrial growth, usefulness of segregation of waste before disposal, man-made features. Again, when it comes to settlements, characteristics of soil, mixed farming, the cropping seasons, mining areas, climatic requirements. These are the pointers which you should be finding it easy. Okay, provided you've read it, or else you'll find it difficult if you're not read it. Right? Chapters, please read them thoroughly at least once. Read it once, but read it thoroughly. Don't just go for this chapter. In that chapter, I'll go for selective topics. I'll read this, I'll do that, I'll do this answer. No. If you're taking that topic, do it thoroughly. Don't attempt it half-heartedly. Tables, notes will always be advisable. Okay, if you can prepare it, nothing like it, that will be beneficial for you. Concepts, merely just writing down the concept and just pushing it in everywhere won't fetch you marks. Making them understand clearly will play such an important role. Topography sheet should, my suggestion, please refer to Aksha publication book if you have. Nothing like it. It's a very neat and clean map. Will be easy for you to solve. Okay. Give yourself time. Okay, while reading the question, understanding which question you are attempting, which not, will play such an important role. Master the technique of taking a note of keywords, those keywords which have to be implemented in your answers. Please do that. Remember, when you're doing map marking, you're pointing the arrow towards that particular place, not towards a name. So be careful. So name is here, point the arrow towards a marking. So be careful with that. Use a 15 minutes of reading time judiciously so that you know what questions you're going to be attempting. Solving of the previous year's papers always been an advantage. We've already done that through step up. Again, do not attempt an extra question if you feel that you don't know that answer. Don't do that. Just because you feel that you are unsure कि पहले जो अटेंड के बराबर है और पीछे से हम करेंगे तो चलेगा. No, don't do that. Okay, attempt only what you know. Okay, please attempt those questions which are asked for compulsory and which you are attempting. Don't go for additional questions. Read your paper thoroughly after you have solved that paper, right? Now, students, here I will be helping you to understand how your paper should be presented. We won't go too much into detail each and every answer, just a selective few understanding how the answer has to be presented. Okay, so let me just quickly take you to that part. All right, students, so here we are with the paper. How this paper, or how when you're solving a paper, how it should be looking like. This is a specimen paper to explain it to you. So you can see how neatly the presentation has been done. Please mention the question number 1 out here. On the left hand side, draw a margin, draw another line. So this numbers will be coming one below another. Okay, that is alphabets or your sub questions. It will come one below another. Explain the answer. You don't have to go in descriptive, sentences. You can write down these answers, mentioning all the important pointers as such. Okay, so that is topography for you. So if you notice, we have also mentioned the units which have been utilized, which have been asked for. Right. Similarly, to the point answers are fine, but wherever you can elaborate, do that. For example, you can see out here. There are 20 grid squares in the boundary limit, scale of impact is 2 centimeter, 1 kilometer. Like that, you can go in description out here. Okay. Again, go a little ahead, and that's how your answer should be getting done. Once you're done with topo, leave that much space, whatever is left out. Try to draw a line out here so that your topic is done. You're moving to the next sheet or next page of that. One more thing before I forget. When it comes to writing down your answers, please try to go in a sequential order because it's easy for the paper corrector to get it. It's not the rule that you can't interchange the order. You can, but it's always advisable that if you go in the sequence, it is easy for you and for the paper corrector to go with the flow. So always remember to do that. Okay. More or less, when you are writing down the topography, please ensure that you are giving not more than 20 minutes to your topography. Okay, at the most, if you feel a little bit thinking here and there, so try to accommodate within 25, but my suggestion is 20 is the optimum time you should be giving, right? Once we go down with the topo, let's go down with the map. In map marking, I would suggest strictly stick to 10 marks at 10 minutes. I'm so sorry for that. 10 minutes is more than enough for you. 10 minutes should be where you should be doing your map marking. Again, the maps will be provided to you, so you have everything. Use your color pencil, and that will be really presentable. It will be very neat. You may use a black pen also if you want, but color pencil for marking is always colorful and more presentable as such. Write down all your names in capital, that is your headers and your marking pointers should be in capital. Similarly, when the question has been asked, now in my opinion, of course, I would always say that you should number them. For example, question number 3A, when you're writing down the answer, it's a points. Write down in A, then italics 1, 2, like that. 1 or 2, any other order is fine. If not that, even these dots are fine as long as you're covering it in the points. If they've asked 2 characters, stick to 2 characters, don't add another third character. If you notice, they underline the important pointers out here. There's a benefit for that. If you underline these important ones, it's easy for the paper to straight away read that and understand it. Right? So similarly, this is how the entire paper will be written. You can see how neatly they have written. See, I wouldn't say that there is no scope of cancellation. There will be. So if there is a cancellation, just take a pencil, just mark a small little line on it. Cancel, that's it. With a pencil, with a pen is fine. But don't make those untidy designs on that. It hampers your presentation. Don't do that, please. If you have bold letter or your handwriting a little big, try to accommodate 2 answers on a single page. That's fine. As long as they are 2 marks or something. Okay. Here also, if you can notice, wherever the temperatures have been there, centimeters have been specified upon out here. After every answer, the line has been drawn. Okay. This is how exactly your paper should be going. Wherever differentiation has been asked, a column, differentiate between them, mention about that, and that's how you have to write it. Examples is always welcome wherever you are writing it down. Right. So this is how you need to explain it to it. Right. More or less, wherever the important understanding or liners are required, please go ahead and do that. Okay. Rest the paper pattern remains. I'm not going too much in detail because we've already discussed the answers. I just wanted to understand how exactly the answers are to be presented. So, new question on a new page is always an important point which you should keep it in mind. Important values, important words, underline them so that it can draw the attention of the paper corrector. Right. So, this is how it has been expected from you. Right. So, yes, on a concluding note, before we wind up with this paper, I'm sorry I'm rushing through the topic. On a concluding note, I would just like to say one thing. Actually, your geography paper is very simple. Trust me on this, you just have to concentrate on your answer. Your last 10 years of papers and your question answers, how much are you thorough with, will play such an important role for you to prepare for your subject. Rest, don't panic, concentrate, write down neatly. Time management has to be effectively done. Do not attempt extra questions, it's not required. And more or less, your geography is again a subject where you just have to know your topics. The better if you practice it, much better if you write it down. The more you solve the papers, 10 years papers step up, nothing like it. Right? So that's from my end, children. I hope geography has been very interesting for you. At any point of time, you feel that you are having any problems, please go ahead and refer to your RoboMate. Nothing can be a better tool than RoboMate. Right? So thank you so much once again. Wishing you all the very best. God bless you all. Thank you, and I'll take your leave. Thank you once again.